In today's modern world, we have access to so much more information, which opens up so many new avenues and possibilities, so many new options that didn't exist before, but also opens us up to more than ever before an infinite voice of distractions and procrastination, and we have to contend with more voices telling us what we should and shouldn't do, which just makes things even more confusing. With increasing prices of education and the cost of living going up, it's challenging to thread that balance between practicality and passion, something you're engaged in and don't hate, but also you gotta eat, right? We all need to make a living, but if we choose a job for the wrong reasons, say we want money or attention instead of choosing something we're truly invested in, we run a huge risk. When we spend our lives pursuing a career that's not actually that interesting to us, just kind of sliding by because we're not all that engaged, new, younger people start to show up who are willing to work longer hours for less money. The solution is to find a purpose, and for the sake of this video, we're gonna define purpose as slightly different from meaning in life. If you're looking to just have a sense of meaning in your life, then check out this video right here. But for purpose, I'm talking about a sort of a career, but something greater than that. A vocation in the original meaning of the word, not a job, but a calling, a personal North Star to guide you through life. We need to find something that draws us in and captivates us and keeps us engaged and learning so that when the time comes and new people show up, we are still at the top of our game. We've spent the last 15 years not stagnating, but getting better and learning and being engaged in the process. And then you become truly irreplaceable in a field. Author Robert Greene points out that each of us are completely unique. The specific combinations of DNA that make us up have never been before and will never be again. We each have vastly different life experience, and then our viewpoints on that life experience are also different. So no matter which way you slice it, you and I, everybody on Earth has a completely unique experience and is a unique individual. Greene talks about your life's task, which for the sake of this video is essentially your purpose. And this first method we're going to talk about comes from Greene's book Mastery, and how by honing in on those unique, weird characteristics that make you who you are, you can start to uncover your purpose. Start by thinking all the way back to your childhood. Think about the things that interested you and even transfixed you as a child, things that grabbed your attention before you even maybe had the words to explain why. Leonardo da Vinci, when he was a child, would spend hours in the forest near his home. He would draw everything he could see, trees, animals, just the plants in the most intricate detail he could possibly do. He just loved the detail of things. When Einstein was a child, he was given a compass by his father, and he was fascinated by the fact that the needle always pointed north and that invisible force that acted on the compass. When Tiger Woods was an infant, he would spend hours watching his father golf, and he started mimicking his father's swing when he was 6 months old. Greene recounts these stories and others like them in Mastery, and you might think, you know, that's great for Einstein, but I really never had anything kind of like that happen to me. That might be true, but on the other hand, what happens as we get older is we tend to start to internalize the expectations and pressures of our environments. We start to think we should like different things, we should be the way everybody else wants us to be, and that internal voice starts to get drowned out by all the noise. So spend some time thinking back over your childhood and just ask yourself, you know, was there something that I really was fascinated by, something that I wanted to know or wanted to understand? It could be something with words or numbers, or maybe music, or making something with your hands, and it doesn't have to be incredibly specific, it's just a place to start this journey, remember. When 5-year-old Steve Jobs was standing transfixed at the window of an electronics store in 1960, he didn't go out immediately and build an iPhone, but it did leave a lasting impression which eventually guided the course of his life. When you were a kid, before there were any expectations or rules or things, you know, you couldn't do, what was it that drew your attention? What captivated that youthful energy within you? If I look back to my own childhood, I was always asking why. Why this? Why this? Why this? It was honestly probably annoying, but it was like, I wanted to know everything, really. I wanted to understand. I wanted to know, oh, what's over there? Why is it the way it is? Why is this? Why is that? And I loved sharing those answers and telling people what I had learned. And if you look at the kind of things I'm interested in now, will I search for the why as to the personal questions I have, and then I make YouTube videos where I explain the answers I get. And even in wanting to travel and do photography, I like going to places and saying, what's over there? Taking a picture and then sharing it with the world. So if I look back on my own childhood, I can see a kind of through line It's kind of interesting. Remember, that feeling might manifest itself ultimately in a lot of different ways, so don't stress over having the end in mind. Just think back and look at what might have interested you as a kid. That's where you're gonna start. If you've got a few ideas that are popping up, but you start to think, I couldn't do that, that's too crazy, I'm not good enough for that, then you might be experiencing some resistance, which is good because that is the second method we are going to talk about. In his book, The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield says the following: most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stands resistance. Resistance is the I don't have time, I'll do it next year. It's the I'm not good enough yet. It's the who do you think you are to do that? The self-distracting, the self-sabotaging, the other person blaming, the procrastinating. Maybe in the back of your mind you've wanted to quit your job or start your own business or create a work of art, but you feel like you're not ready and you don't know enough. That's resistance. Pressfield describes resistance as the cause of more unhappiness than poverty, disease, and erectile dysfunction. But don't worry, there's actually great news, because resistance has one very important function. It can point us towards where we need to go. Pressfield describes resistance as a shadow of a goal or an aspiration. In other words, the bigger the resistance, the bigger the goal, meaning the more important it is that we do it. With this perspective, you can see resistance as a kind of North Star to guide you through life. So, in order to find a purpose in life, take a second to analyze the things you've been resisting and ask, why? What is it about these things that makes you shrink and stay small and tell yourself no? There's a good chance that the things you experience the most resistance to are in fact the things you need to do the most. When we feel that resistance is because we have a desire to be something greater. There's a desire for us to blossom, sort of, or to turn into a butterfly. But our current sense of self, that ego, sees the potential for failure or risk and says, no, don't do it. Comes up with all this resistance to hold us in place, wants us to not go through that metamorphosis. Why is that? Well, maybe we're afraid of being a better version of ourselves. We're afraid we can't make it work. We're afraid that, people have always seen us like this. What if we're trying to change? What are people gonna say? What if we fail? So if you don't know the thing, but you still feel the resistance, that in and of itself is a symptom of there being that thing you need to express. So look at your life and just figure out, what are you resisting the most? Over the past several years for me, that's been starting a YouTube channel, doing more professional photography, traveling more solo in the world. I initially wrote down YouTube and travel photography as something I wanted to focus on 7 years ago. A lot of those 7 years have been that kind of soft procrastination where you're like, oh, I'm learning over here, or oh, I'm doing this over here. It does make you better, but it does not make you better nearly as quickly or as efficiently as simply embracing the resistance and doing the damn thing. I could have learned so much more in those 7 years had I embraced resistance rather than hiding from it. So please don't make the same mistake that I did. Force yourself to engage with those things you resist, because they do point you towards the next step you need to take in uncovering your own purpose in life. Now, if you've got this far into the video and you're still feeling a bit lost, like, neither of those things really call out to me, then I've got a brute force method for you. Get a sheet of paper, you're gonna draw a line down the middle. You're going to spend 10 minutes writing everything you are good at on one half of the page. Ask some other people what you're good at, because sometimes they will have unique insights into you. It's kind of weird, but they will. Then spend 10 minutes writing on the other side of paper everything you're interested in. These could be your hobbies, anything like that, just things you enjoy. You want to draw on your past experience, so write down the things you've tried that you liked, or the things you've tried that you don't like. Those are important too. Write down whatever comes to mind. Don't tell yourself, well, that's not realistic, or I can't do that, or whatever. Just anything that comes to mind. Don't censor yourself. And if you do notice any of those voices, chalk that up to resistance, mark that down as a point, and notice if any of these things kind of stimulate that childhood trigger we talked about, where you think about, oh, that did interest me when I was a little kid. Think about that as well while you're going through this process. Then you go back and highlight the things that stick out to you the most. You look at the whole list and think, well, these ones seem the most important. Go combine your most important skills, the things you can do, the things you're good at, and the things other people think you're good at, with your interests. And then start to think of unique ways that you might be able to combine those things together to forge your own career path. Or at the very least, like always, we're just looking for a place to start. Because by allowing that internal sense of purpose to grow, we start to listen to that childhood voice, we start to push into that resistance, we start to find those things that kind of turn us on in a unique way, that connect with us. Once you have that starting point, the first order of business is to enter that world. Maybe you go to a university or you get a job in the field. You enter the world you want to be in and start to immerse yourself in absorbing the knowledge and skill sets. Start marinating your brain kind of within that realm. Until you take that first step, there's no real way to know how many twists and turns the path might take. But once you're on the journey, you can use the steps in this video to continually refine that interest level and make sure you're still on course. You'll start to figure out what you like, what you don't like, what you're actually good at. You'll start to get better at a lot of things, and you will move closer and closer towards that life's task that Robert Greene talks about. Continually use that purpose to make refinements. So you might notice that, oh, I thought I wanted to go over here, but actually I want to go over here. Well, then listen to that voice too. And through continuing to grow, continuing to acquire knowledge and skills, you will make yourself more valuable. And that is one of the great side effects of following your purpose. So many people expect to spend 4 years in college and then coast for the rest of their lives. But with the speed of information these days, let's be real, that's completely unrealistic. Things change so fast, but if you are engaged, if you are dialed in and interested, following the things that excite you and you love to learn about, you will be motivated to stay way ahead of everybody else because you will continue researching, you'll continue growing, you'll continue learning because it's the things you're interested in anyway. You'll distinguish yourself because you'll be the person showing up enthusiastically and happy who's learned more while everybody else is just coasting and waiting to go home. There's no way you can't stand out in an environment like that. The most important thing is to just start the process. So many people let their dreams die because they're afraid to start. I know personally, I spent 7 years procrastinating this stuff. So learn from my mistakes. Just start, embrace the resistance, push through. It'll cause you to grow, it'll cause you to learn. You'll show up with an open mind, ready to absorb every piece of information. People will be excited to teach you because they're happy to engage with somebody who wants to learn. And that temporary discomfort is nothing compared to that long-term pain and agony of giving up on your hopes and dreams, looking back on your life when you're 60 or 70 and thinking, man, I didn't try. That is the true discomfort. So use the methods in this video to narrow in on that beginning step. And remember that life is short. No matter how safe we play it, no matter how much we tell ourselves, oh, don't try hard, stay comfortable, don't do the hard things, we're all just gonna die either way. So you might as well try. Do you really have anything better to do with your life than pursue the things that matter? I have a hard time thinking of anything. This video is both inspired and informed by the books Mastery by Robert Greene and The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. I will highly recommend both of those. I'll put a link in the description. You should also check out this video right here where I go over 6 books that I read in 2022 that had a transformative impact on my life, and I share my most valuable takeaways. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you, and we will see you next time. Bye.